This is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, it is brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Geoff Mosher's here in this hour of the show. Want to welcome aboard again our new friends over at Taco Cat. Got a craving for tacos? Check out the Taco Cat located at 8 South Essex Avenue in Margate. We had the Taco Cat truck out here as well. Oh, man, the Taco Cats is a spot that you need to hit. Visit them at TacoCatSouthJersey.com for more information and give them a follow on Instagram at Taco Cat Margate. They bring you the 4 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. Geoff Mosher's here for Football at 4. We got a game this weekend, Geoff Mosher, and I see you guys over at InsideTheBirds.com giving out your predictions. And I can go right off the bat and say Geoff Mosher is not picking the Eagles to win the NFC East.
That's correct. I did not pick the Eagles to win the NFC East. I'm just going with history, Mike. No team has repeated as division champion since the Eagles did in 2003 and 2004. So that's about 17, 18 years of a different team winning the division. Now, the interesting thing is the team that wins the division doesn't always finish as high or doesn't always go as far in the playoffs as other NFC East teams that have also made the playoffs that year. One year, the Eagles finished, I think, second in the division. Giants finished first, but the Eagles beat the Giants in the playoffs. So if you'll notice in my playoff predictions there, I do have the Eagles advancing further than the Cowboys, who I do have winning the division.
Yes, so that's part of today's Inside the Birds podcast that you could check out on all your podcasting platforms. You do have some interesting betting things there that I think we can get into as well, because we were talking about this earlier. I asked John McMullen this question. I'll ask you because your answers are interesting. Last year, the Eagles' defense, right? You had 16 sacks from Reddick. You had 11 from Hargrave, who's obviously not here anymore. You had 11 from Brandon Graham. You had 11 from Josh Sweat. You had 7 from Fletcher Cox. You had 4 for Milton Williams. I asked him, of those guys last year, those were their sack totals. Who gets more sacks than they had last year? Did any of those guys do better than they did a year ago?
Possibly, and possibly some don't have as many as a year ago. I do think if someone's going to have even more sacks than last year, among the guys who play a lot, it would be Josh Sweat. And I'm still sort of waiting to see, we all are, on how Sean Desai plans to deploy his defensive linemen, his pass rushers, what kind of combinations he's using, how he's using them. Does he play a little more wide 9 maybe than Jonathan Gannon? Does he not at all? So, but Josh Sweat is a guy who I think is sort of underrated only because he's around a lot of guys who've either made the Pro Bowl. He has made the Pro Bowl too, but he's such a consistent force on that D-line. So it wouldn't surprise me if this year it was his turn to be the guy to get 13 or 14 sacks, and maybe Hassan Reddick doesn't.
Yeah, I know, the over-under for Josh Sweat is 7.2 sacks. I mean, come on. He had 11 sacks last year. They're really bringing his number down. Reddick, 16 last year. That number is 11.75 this year. So you look at both those guys. But that's one of the things we were talking about is pressure. The Eagles got a lot of pressure last year. They had 70 sacks. They led the league, and they were historically great getting to the quarterback. But I said, I don't know, can Reddick get 16 or more sacks again? Can Brandon Graham get 11 or more sacks? He never had double digits until last year. Who's replacing the 11 sacks from Hargrave? Can Josh Sweat get 11 or more again? If you don't get the same sacks and pressure, what's this defense look like with the secondary and the safeties?
That's a great question. I mean, I don't think they have to get 70 sacks again to be a good defense because they had never done it before and had some pretty good defenses. So I think games like last year where they had 9 sacks in that first game against Washington because Carson Wentz, is not a mobile quarterback anymore and didn't move around. You're probably not going to get 9 sacks against Sam Howell. So I do believe that they're going to numerically take a step back in sacks. But again, you can argue that they'll be better in areas like run defense, for example, because you don't have Javon Hargrave in there, and you'll have Jalen Carter in there as a rookie much more. And Jordan Davis should be able to play a lot more snaps, assuming his conditioning is ready. So that can improve the team in a different area. And if you're good in run defense, you're still forcing the opponent to be in second and third and long situations. So it helps you get off the field, because I still think they're going to be good at rushing the passer, very good at it. Even Bill Belichick said it today in his press conference. He said the Eagles have the best pass rush in the NFL, and it's not particularly close. And so I think that's probably a fair statement. There are some other good teams that have good pass rushers. So the Eagles could very easily have 62 sacks instead of 70 and still be really good.
Yeah, well, listen, if they got 62, yes, you're still getting guys piling up the sacks. I just wonder, are you going to be going from around 70 to in like the 40 range? Now you're talking about dropping like 30 sacks from a year ago, and those 30 sacks that you got a year ago, or pressure, amounted to a lot of turnovers and getting off the field and all that kind of stuff. And that's why you wonder what the ceiling of this defense is if you don't get the same pressure as you did a year ago. Because I think we could all agree, Moshe, you're probably lesser at safety than you were, and you're probably lesser at linebacker than you were. I think at corner, you're probably similar, but those guys are all a year older.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There's been a lot of changes on this defense. I would still say I'd be surprised. I don't think the drop-off in sacks is going to be tremendous. Again, it's still, yes, you took Javon Hargrave away. That's 11, but you did add Nolan Smith. You added Jalen Carter. You brought in Contavious Street. You did bring in guys. Milton Williams will play more snaps theoretically. So you do have guys who can still really good at rushing the passer. And so it wouldn't surprise me if the sack number was still among the league leaders, if not league leaders. And shoot, could they get 70 again? I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah,
but I don't think it'll be a far drop off from what they had last year.
One area last year, Miles Sanders had 1,269 yards. Is there a guy on this running back committee? Do they want a guy to be the guy that gets 1,269 yards?
No, probably not, because they've got a situational backfield where guys are going to occupy different roles. I'd be surprised if one of these individual backs surpassed 1,200 yards, unless there were a lot of injuries and they had to lean heavily on one or two guys who did stay healthy. So that's always the case, because they definitely have guys who are talented enough to accrue 1,200 or more yards if they saw those kind of touches. But, these guys haven't shown that they can stay, other than, say, a Gainwell. Certainly Penny and Swift have not shown that they're going to be durable enough to get that many touches to accrue that many yards. That's why they're all together here forming one sort of monster back.
Yeah, it's funny because I think I don't know. Do people look at anybody on this team better than Sanders? But it almost feels like people like the situation better than Sanders. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you have running backs who can run the ball as effectively and efficiently and explosively as Miles did at his best, and you have running backs who can catch the ball better than Miles did at his best. So theoretically, you can argue that even though you don't have all of those components in one, you have all of those components in many, and you have many to use at your disposal. And because of that, you'll probably preserve the health of them. Some injuries you can't avoid, and I don't think all four of these guys are going to stay healthy for 17 games, but you're certainly equipped to be able to do what you need to do with the numbers that you do have. And don't forget, it's, I don't know how you phrase it. It's not luck at all, but Trey Sermon getting hurt right at the last game and in between the waiver cut down enabled them to bring him back on the IR, short-term IR, we were told. So he should be back. He could be back at some point in the season if the Eagles have an injury there and need to, bring him back. They'll have to make a decision when he's ready to come off IR.
Yeah. Geoff Mosher, Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. Eagles and the Patriots this weekend. They're going with 4 wide receivers here. You got Dallas Goedert and the tight ends, Albert O. They brought in Jack Stoll, Grant Calcaterra. I asked earlier, can Dallas Goedert, he had 700-plus yards last year. He missed 5 games. But can he be a 1,000-yard receiver as well, even with Brown and Smith?
Yeah, I think he averages enough yards per game that project to over 1,000 yards in a 17-game season. The question is, can he go without missing that 3 to 5 games that he tends to miss a year. I definitely think there's enough passes to go around to get him there if he stays healthy and if the Eagles are functioning well offensively. But it's the nagging, the injuries with him, and sometimes he's just had some nagging ones, but it has prevented him from becoming a 1,000-yard receiver. He certainly has the talent to do it, though.
Yeah. He missed those 5 games. Where do you look at the tight end in this offense, and last year you had Brown and Smith obviously lead the way, and Goddard. Where do you think, we know what Belichick likes to do defensively. He likes to take away something. We're going to take this away, and you're not getting that against us. If somebody was trying to take away something from the Eagles, what is it?
It would obviously be their wide receivers. I mean, and their quarterback as well. But that's a little bit hard because the quarterback sometimes is a running back. But obviously, the wide receivers would be your foremost mission to stop, because those guys, as good as Dallas Goedert is, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith can turn, a short pass, an intermediate pass into a touchdown very easily in a way that Dallas Goedert cannot. Plus, they can also beat guys over the top very easily in a way that Dallas Goedert cannot. So, most teams, just like the Eagles, right? Most teams have the same core philosophy of we want to try to eliminate explosive plays and getting beat over the top, which is why a lot of teams are now playing zone and Fangio style concepts. So those would be the two guys that I think keep the defensive coordinators awake at night the most.
Yeah.
It just doesn't help them that when they take those guys out, that Dallas Goedert's also on the team to then pick up the pieces, which is kind of like what teams feel like when they have to face the Chiefs.
Well, and I think you look at Belichick likes to take one guy or the strength of your team away. All right, I'm going to take A.J. Brown out. All right, we're going to go to Smith. All right, we're going to take Smith out. We're going to go to Brown. We're going to try to take the receivers out. Now we got Goddard, and it'll be interesting. Adam said something yesterday. He thought that the running backs would get 7 pass attempts thrown their way, on average. Do you agree that the running backs will be more a part of the pass game this season? Because we haven't seen that.
I do. Yeah, no, I do agree that they will. I believe you have it with DeAndre Swift. You have a player now that you want to draw up passing plays for. I don't know that they wanted to do that. Well, they definitely didn't want to do that the last few years for Miles Sanders. He could run a route because it's part of the play design, or he could catch a dump off, an occasional one. But I don't think he was the first option unless it was a screen, which they didn't throw that many to running backs in the last 2 or 3 years of Miles Sanders' career. With DeAndre Swift, they want to get the ball into his hands in that manner because that's what he does really well. So yes, I do. I don't know any number, 7 seems like a lot at the end of the year. Cause that would be like, let's see, my quick math tells me 7 to 7. That's like over 110 receptions for running backs, right?
Or targets. Oh,
target. Yeah. Which is not exorbitant for some teams, but maybe for the Eagles, the way they run their offense, it would be a little high, but I wouldn't put it past them.
Because that would be a big uptick if you targeted the running backs that many more times than, last year, for instance, Kenneth Gainwell led the Eagles running backs with 29 targets. It shows you how little they threw the ball to backs last year.
Right. And in fact, you can probably do some quick math. You said Gainwell was 29 targets.
Gainwell had 29 targets. Miles Sanders had 26. And
so
Scott
55.
had 6.
Yeah, so we're talking about 61 targets for running backs last year.
It's pretty crazy, though, when you think about it like that, right?
They'd have to have twice as many to kind of hit that number that we were just talking about.
Yeah, that's Quez Watkins had 51 targets last year, and it felt like he never got the ball. But the running backs as a group had about the same amount of targets as Watkins had all season long. So that would be a big change to the offense. And I think it's an interesting matchup this week, Moshe, with Brian Johnson, his first game ever as a play caller. He's got to go up against Bill Belichick.
It is. That's a tough one to go against. And, what the Patriots are always a confusing defense. They do a lot. Listen, they can put pressure on the quarterback as well. They got Matthew Judon. They have Josh Uche. They've got some guys up front that they roll in and out. And Belichick's always put a high priority on on his secondary and has developed his secondary players. And then think about it. This will be at Gillette Stadium, starting a new right guard. It's going to be loud because Tom Brady, it's the whole Tom Brady ceremony, right? And so the Eagles will probably have to rely at times on a silent count. So there will be some opportunity there for the Patriots to cause confusion for the Eagles up front, be it by what they're doing defensively or the loud crowd or a combination of both. So it is a little bit of a test for Brian Johnson as a big test, actually, for Brian Johnson as a first-time play caller.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier today. You got Brian Johnson against Belichick. You got Sean Desai getting to walk into a matchup with the Patriots offensive line who's kind of in shambles right now. And I think Desai is going to walk into a situation where his strength, his defensive front, could get off to a great start this week. That's a matchup that you probably got to like a lot if you're Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with week one, there's always so many things that are running through your head. I know they want to develop Mac Jones and Bill O'Brien's there. And, I don't want to make any assumptions about the kind of offense that Bill O'Brien's going to run there. Just because he ran a heavy 2 tight end offense back in the day doesn't mean he's going to do it again. But you would think they've got issues at right tackle. Riley Reiff was going to be their starter, and he's way past his prime. And now they're playing somebody else who's not so good. And when you have offensive line issues, you sort of want to say maybe we should just run the ball. They have a very good running back in Ramondre Stevenson, who I think is one of the rising star running backs in the league. And they brought in Ezekiel Elliott. And, if Bill and O'Brien and Bill Belichick want to play that way, I wouldn't put it past them because they're not afraid to do that. Remember that game where they did nothing but run the ball because it was really windy against the Bills? It was like 2 years ago, right? Mac Jones's rookie year. I think they threw the ball 3 times or something. So they may run into a situation where they're like, if they feel like their run game's going, they'll just ride it.
Moshe, you mentioned over at InsideTheBirds.com when you were breaking down the depth chart for the Eagles, they kept 7 defensive tackles, and you're wondering how you got to play 7 defensive tackles. They probably do not here, but why keep 7 guys if you don't think you can get that many guys on the field on game day?
Well, they're all different in a way, and some of them the Eagles think they need for specific roles. Like, why is Marlon Tuipulotu on the team? He had a good camp. He is one of the few guys that they have on the interior defensive line that they saw in college and they feel still can move over and play a little bit of that zero technique, that nose tackle that Jordan Davis plays. Remember, they don't have Linval Joseph. Noah Ellis didn't make the team. So they really don't. Once again, they're entering the year without that natural backup nose. So Marlon can do that. Contavious Street's just a good rotational defensive tackle. He was with the Saints. I mean, they didn't want to waive him because they feel like he can be a part of the rotation. Milton Williams, year 3, he's going to see more snaps. Jalen Carter, Marlon. Not Marlon. The rookie they drafted, they like Moro Ojomo.
Yep.
Probably going to be inactive, but didn't want to. That's a position where you don't want to waive a guy and leave him exposed to the waivers. And with the new rules of the practice squad, where you can elevate guys like they're going to do with the punter, Aaron Sipos, without having him on the 53, it enabled them to keep young developmental guys, at least for now, on the 53 and develop them and not have to expose them to waivers.
Geoff Mosher, Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. Football at 4. And Moshe won't be back for the rest of the week, so we'll ask him today, Wednesday. Do you have a pick on the game, Eagles and Patriots, on Sunday?
Yes. Before I give you my pick, I'm just a little surprised you didn't want to bring up at all or have a discussion about Saturday's West Virginia Penn State game.
Yeah.
You didn't want to, where's Rothstein? Is he not with you today? I mean, I can't get a little double trash talk.
No, we were off Monday because we were mourning.
Oh, yes, I understand. No,
I know, and I got I got enough. All right, I knew going in. I didn't say much because come on, we're just not ready yet.
That's true. I will say your offensive line's not bad.
The offensive line's good. They can run the ball. Yeah. The quarterback's limited.
Yeah, he's limited, but he's athletic. I wouldn't be surprised if West Virginia got better as the season goes on because I think the quarterback can do some second reaction things there. I was impressed. But I think the Eagles will win. I think it'll be, I know the over-under number is like 45, right? And I'm thinking that might be a little high. I could see them winning kind of like a 23-13 type way, a little bit ugly.
Hey, that's our first official pick of the 2023 season right there, Geoff Mosher.
All right, there you go. You got it.
Eagles 23-13, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I'm not sure I love the 13, but it might be a little more than that. But we'll see, because new defense, you never know,
Can you let the listeners, do you have a new schedule? Do you have plans for Inside the Birds yet?
We do. We have so much, and unfortunately, we just cannot announce it yet. It's a whole, you understand, like crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and we're at the finish line.
Well, is the podcast schedule different yet?
No, the podcast will still be out Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Well, I'm saying in the off season, it's 2 days, and you're now Monday, back to Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But we're also bringing in some extra programming that I think people are really going to enjoy. Some new personalities to the platform that I know people are going to enjoy. So just stay tuned, and then hopefully in the next 24 to 48, we'll be able to open it up like Pandora's box and tell it all.
All right, man. Well, Mosher's back on Monday. He'll be recapping the Eagles and the Patriots. And, of course, tomorrow Andrew's here. We'll get his bold predictions on the season, and Adam will give us the lowdown on everything Friday during Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash. Thanks, bud.
You got it, man. Take care.
All right, there you go. That's Geoff Mosher, Football at 4.